A teenager bludgeoned to death in the freezing snow.
Traci had died of blunt force trauma. She had been strangled, and she had a large bruise on her chest, which appeared to be from stomping.
Would spark a rigorous search for an elusive killer.
We were looking for a very violent individual. We were looking for a monster who would do this to an 18-year-old girl.
How would you describe Traci's last moments alive?
Terrifying. It was evident there was a lot of rage from the killer. Blood cast off in droplets in the snow around her body and also up in the branches of the trees. She was out there alone in this remote driveway. I imagine it was very terrifying. It's quite a big responsibility knowing that somebody like this is out there, and it's up to you to find him.
If you read the case, it's like reading a crime novel, and you wonder why it wasn't solved yet.
So how much work went into your investigation?
We worked throughout the state. We had help from law enforcement out of state that helped us get DNA and do interviews for us.
As any investigator, we always want to face the killer. We want to bring justice.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Grafton, Wisconsin, located about 20 miles north of Milwaukee. This tight-knit community was the last place anyone would have expected a teenager to be brutally attacked during her short walk home. The mysterious clues left at the scene were baffling, and it would take the dogged determination of investigators to bring answers to the victim's devastated family. It was a cold December morning when a man leaving for work made a horrific discovery.
He had gotten about halfway down the driveway when he found a partially clothed female laying on the side of his driveway. Upon discovering this, he went back to his house and called the sheriff's office, reporting what he had found. This was at 6:27 a.m. When the first arriving deputies, they looked at her body, and it appeared that she had been bludgeoned to death along the right side of her head.
It was apparent the victim had been attacked by a dangerous predator.
She was naked from the waist down. Her sweater had been pulled up. Her pants and shoes were kind of strewn above her head. There was a lot of blood cast off in droplets in the snow around her body and also up in the branches of the trees.
It was clear to the deputies and detectives first arriving on the scene that she had died a horrible death.
More clues were discovered next to her body.
They found a pack of Marlboro cigarettes right by her feet as well. And there was a tire track leaving from where her body was. And her body had been laying on the hillside for a little bit, it seemed, because it had slid down partially over the tire track that was remaining in the driveway.
The detectives, in the attempt to identify who the decedent was, looked in her pockets and found no identification. They did locate on her right outer wrist a small heart tattoo with an arrow going through it.
As news of the homicide spread, a frantic mother called police.
Her mother had called to question whether or not this was her daughter. Her daughter was supposed to be home last night and never arrived. When the investigators received that phone call, while they may have known that this was the mother, they still had to confirm. So they gathered additional information, eventually went over and spoke with mom, looked at pictures.
Photographs verified the awful truth. The victim was her daughter, 18-year-old Traci Hammerberg.
These are always the toughest times when you have to tell a parent that their child was murdered.
It became even more tragic when the medical examiner released his report.
Traci had died of blunt force trauma to the side of her head caused by some sort of metallic object. She had been strangled, there was evidence of that, and she had a large bruise on her chest which appeared to be from a footprint, like a stomping of her chest area as well.
The autopsy also revealed that Traci had been violently sexually assaulted.
The biological evidence left by the cold-blooded killer was submitted into evidence.
We had DNA of the suspect, not only on her body, but under her fingernails, which evidenced that she fought back.
How would you describe Traci's last moments alive?
Terrifying. It was evident there was a lot of rage from the killer, almost like overkill. Because of the blood found around where her body was, they determined that she was killed right at that area. She was out there alone in this remote driveway on a cold December night in Wisconsin. I imagine it was very terrifying.
Detectives fanned out and found a witness.
So at about 5:45 a.m., a hunter was getting up to retrieve his hunting gear, and this hunter lived right at the beginning of the driveway where Traci was found. And as he was going to the clothesline to get his hunting gear, he heard a car coming up the driveway, and he described it as a dark-colored sedan that was driving pretty fast up the gravel driveway with its lights off. And the car peeled out.
Moments later, another neighbor saw the same car turning on its headlights as it raced down the road.
Another hunter that was in the woods northwest of the crime scene also observed this same car speed down the road going northbound on Maple Road and then headed west on Cedar Sauk Road. He heard tires squealing first, then he looked up and observed the dark vehicle.
All the clues pointed police towards one ominous conclusion. Traci's murder had been a crime of passion.
He was very nervous and very apprehensive to let us look in the car.
So when the lab found blood in his vehicle, what went through your mind?
When we found that blood stain, we thought that maybe that's where Traci had met her fate.
Something happened in that car.
As detectives launched their investigation, they were determined to bring justice to Traci Hammerberg's heartbroken family. The outgoing teenager was known throughout the tight-knit community for her warm smile and kind heart.
She was very well liked and just a good person, as everybody we talked to described her. She was, in my eyes, just a typical 18-year-old, on the verge of life, trying to find herself.
But her life had been cut tragically short in a rage-fueled attack.
The community needed to know who Traci's killer was.
Red flags were raised when detectives discovered Traci had a boyfriend.
She had just recently entered into a serious relationship.
Detectives interviewed Traci's friends to learn more about the relationship. Investigators wondered if an explosive argument had somehow turned deadly. So where was Traci's boyfriend at the time of her murder?
Her boyfriend had moved out to North Dakota a week prior to her homicide. He was in the National Guard, and he was starting to set up a home for them. Traci was excited about joining him. They were able to clear him through blood type, as well as the distance that he was from Port Washington and Grafton at the time of the homicide.
He had been out of state the entire time.
With Traci's boyfriend crossed off their list, police were focused on piecing together a timeline of her last known steps.
They found that Traci had been babysitting for a friend that evening earlier, and that she, from there, had walked down to a convenience store where
she met up her friends around 9:45 p.m. and drove with them to Port Washington, which is about 3.5 miles.
Traci had attended a party at her friend Scott's house.
This house had a lot of traffic in and out of it with family and friends. So we really focused on the house and who would have been there and who would have been interacting with Traci.
But no one seemed to know exactly what had happened to Traci.
The timeline really froze up and became unclear once she got in that house. There were different accounts of who was there, what people were doing, even where they were in the house, and ultimately when and how Traci left the house. It was all unknown.
Traci's friend Scott told police he believed she had left around midnight and had most likely walked home. Despite all their efforts, police couldn't pinpoint the moment she had crossed paths with her killer.
It was challenging. That was our obstacle that we were stuck on.
The investigation began to stall, but when Detective Jim Johnson became sheriff, he vowed to bring Traci's family the answers they so desperately needed. He had attended the same high school as Traci and was convinced he could find the key to cracking the case.
I knew many of the people that were involved in the case, and I believed that my inside knowledge might be helpful in bringing this case to a successful conclusion.
Detectives re-interviewed Traci's friend Scott, and red flags were raised by the inconsistencies in his story.
When the investigators looked at Scott's statements, they changed. The time they arrived changed. The time they left changed. It just seemed like they were making up stories.
It seemed like each time his story would vary and change in ways that it seemed that he could be deceptive on some of his answers.
Their suspicions were raised even more when they asked to search his car.
He was very nervous and very apprehensive to let us look in the car. So we really thought we were onto something at that point and knew we had to search that car.
Armed with a warrant, Scott's vehicle was brought to the lab for processing. And when the lab examined Scott's car, were they able to find any evidence?
But one thing they did find was a blood spot on the back seat.
So when you learned that blood had been located in his car, what went through your mind?
When we found that blood stain in the back of Scott's car, we thought that maybe that's where Traci had met her fate.
But when the lab returned with their results, it was a major setback.
Further evaluation of the blood stain revealed that it was not Traci's blood.
Ultimately, Scott's DNA did not match the evidence in the case.
We knew it wasn't his DNA that was found on Traci. Turned out to be a dead end for us.
The investigation was once again back to square one.
In this case, nothing came easy the whole time.
But they remained relentless in their quest for justice.
We were not discouraged. We kept moving forward. I was very determined to solve this case. And the ace that we had on that was we had DNA. He had a history of drug violations and he had been incarcerated.
He had a violent temper. He got extremely angry when things didn't go his way.
He was a true sociopath.
Detectives remained intensely committed to using the DNA left behind by the killer to solve Traci Hammerberg's murder.
I knew my job was to find a match to that suspect DNA.
So how much work went into your investigation?
So I can't tell you how many houses, apartments, driveways, places of work, vehicles we've sat in to interview people that we thought were potentially a suspect. Traci associated with a lot of different people. She had many different friend groups, and that made it challenging for us to try to track down all these different people. But we worked throughout the state. We had help from law enforcement out of state that helped us get DNA and do interviews for us that we couldn't travel to. But we put, I would say, thousands of hours into this, talking to people.
They compared each suspect's DNA to the unknown profile in the case.
We had tested over 400 people throughout the years of the investigation, and we had not gotten a match. That was frustrating.
But the disappointments only intensified their resolve.
I was very motivated. I knew this was my job. The ball was handed to me and my partners, and we had to advance it. We had to do something to find this monster.
And when forensic genealogy emerged as a promising tool, they jumped at the opportunity to apply the new technique.
As we heard about the emerging technology involved with forensic genetic genealogy, we became excited.
We were ready to take care of business and get down to it and find who this person was.
The team worked tirelessly to find the killer.
It took weeks, months for us to narrow it down, working directly with the FBI forensic genealogy team in Los Angeles.
Until they zeroed in on a name.
Once we found out who that person was, it was the puzzle piece that fit without a doubt and made the whole picture clear on what had happened with Traci.
What was his name?
His name was Philip Cross.
At the time of Traci's murder, Philip Cross would have been 21 years old. Detectives closely examined his background.
Philip Cross had a history of drug violations and he had been incarcerated.
And there was more.
Philip was described by many people of having a very hot temper where he could go off the handle. He was a true sociopath.
His vehicle was also a match to the one seen by the hunter speeding away from the scene.
So Philip Cross drove a dark-colored sedan, which was very consistent with what the hunter had observed leaving the driveway with its lights off.
Detectives created a detailed timeline of his whereabouts on the night of Traci's murder.
He got a job at a local factory in Grafton, and he worked second shift, getting off work at midnight.
The evidence showed the road that Philip Cross would have traveled to get home from work was the same one Traci would have been walking on that night. So what do you think happened the night of Traci's murder?
That Philip offered Traci a ride. Traci knew who Philip was. They went to the same high school. He was charming. Most likely asked her if she wanted a ride.
Detectives believe they had finally found Traci Hammerberg's killer.
We found that he had died of a drug overdose.
So what'd you think when you found out he had died?
It was frustrating that we were never able to bring him in. We were never able to question him. But at the same time, there was a huge sense of relief that we had finally solved this case.
Traci's family will be forever grateful to the investigators who never gave up.
The whole case is really sad. It's sad what happened to Traci. It's sad the ripple effect it caused to her family, to the community, to her friends. I was angry that we wouldn't be able to bring him in personally to justice, but at the same time, there was a huge sense of relief that we had finally solved this case.
Community knows. The community is able to heal. Traci's family knows what happened to Traci. And we were able to give Traci some bit of justice.
After solving Traci Hammerberg's case, detectives compared Philip Cross's DNA to the evidence in other unsolved homicides. But so far, he has not been connected to another violent crime. And now it is time for today's Safety Spotlight. While teenagers may be eager for independence, it is crucial that they learn and practice personal safety. For example, it's important for teens to practice situational awareness. Today, we're all easily distracted by our phones or music. But in public, it is critical to stay alert and be on the lookout for anyone who makes you feel uncomfortable. Even if you're going a short distance, teens should avoid walking alone at night. Talk to your teens about having a safety plan for various scenarios and tell them they can always call you if something doesn't feel right. And for more teen personal safety tips, go to missingchildrensnetwork.ngo. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.